Well, hi there. It's time to stand up and get moving. So we've wandered our way up from Tampa Bay up to the beautiful town of St. Augustine. And I can honestly kick myself for not coming up here and exploring this fun town sooner. Now, before we start exploring what St. Augustine has to offer, I do want to give a little heads up. This is the Scenic Discomfort Tour. And with that, we're going to see some really cool things that each state has to offer. We're also going to go through and explore some of the not so good things. And some of those topics might be sensitive for some people. I will give you a heads up, either turning down your volume or skipping ahead, whatever the case may be. But we are going to go through and discuss corporate structure and how people actually live in each state and the challenges each state has. We are going to discuss things like DV, child abuse, poverty, homelessness. And so if those things are sensitive for you, those will be times when you'll probably want to turn down the volume or go ahead and skip ahead. So let's go ahead and talk about St. Augustine, and we're going to contextualize how we talk about St. Augustine, pulling in the idea that this channel is about transitions and change. And in that being said, this is the oldest city in the United States, and it has definitely gone through a lot of transitions and changes over the generations. And we're going to talk about it this way because it's the lived experience of the people that were here and are here now, and how that change happens in the moment, whether or not we're aware of it or not. And the idea here is we want to become aware of the change, not just in ourselves, but how we can affect change in our communities as we live our day-to-day lives. So I wrote this little thing for St. Augustine. Change does have a pulse. And you can hear it in the footsteps that have crossed this same stretch of earth for centuries. Temuca, Spanish, African, British, Cuban, and American. Each group leaving something behind and taking something with it. St. Augustine isn't just the oldest city in America, it's a living archive, a crossroads of conquest and refuge, faith and defiance. The first free black settlement rose here, built by people who turned survival into sovereignty. Every culture that passed through left fingerprints on the language, the food, the music, and the bones beneath these cobblestones. This is Trippin, and this is the Scenic Discomfort Tour. Let's go see what St. Augustine has to offer. So we're gonna go wander around the downtown area a little bit. I really like to wake up early in the morning when there's not a lot of people around, because I can go through and get just the shots can be a lot cleaner. There's not as much background noise, that sort of thing. We went and wandered around early in the morning, got our coffee, a little biscuit from Miss Little, and we took off and we just walked everywhere. We walked around all day, and you'll kind of see later on when there's people around, that's us walking around later in the afternoon, pretty close to dinner at that point. And as I go through St. Augustine, I'm doing my exploring the way that I like to do it, and I'm sharing some of that stuff, but I'm not dialoguing or talking my way through it. I basically have my camera up and I'm like, that's cool, let's go over there. That's my jam. So I hope you enjoy it. There's some cool stuff. There's some really cool stuff. So, and as I'm kind of sitting here going through some of this stuff, it's like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot that was there. That was really pretty cool. So you might hear me kind of pop in every so often. We'll see how that goes. But I'm gonna do all the stats in one shot though. So let's just kind of see how that works out. Like I said, I'm still kind of putting this channel together. I'm gonna do stats right now. Florida is fourth in the nation for GDP, and it sits at 1.7 trillion, well, just over $1.7 trillion, and that was for 2024. Okay, that being said, all of that money that's out there, 1 in 6 children. So when you're wandering around Florida, you count their little heads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is living in poverty. In actual terms of numbers, this percentage translates to approximately 714,768 children currently living in poverty in Florida. Okay, that's what, so when we shut down school lunches, when we shut that down, this is what we're doing. That being said, let's go ahead and talk about our national birth stats. For Florida, which ranked 4th in the nation for births in 2024. 2024, Florida had 18,790 total births. Medicaid births, 45, almost 46% of those children needed Medicaid help. Yeah. Here's a fun stat. 39%. So just say 40. 40% of those births, the mothers experienced DV during her pregnancy. So, and now that baby's being born into that. Do we think that that's going to improve the situation or make the situation worse? So, these are things to consider. And a lot of us are already aware of this. A lot of us are living this. So, and for those of you that don't know, or you don't know the prevalence, that part of the reason why I'm sharing this, and part of my inspiration with this too, is all the women that are sharing their stories online, and how those patterns are just over and over and over and over again. So the more we know, the more that we can guard ourselves against people that do these kind of things to other people, and the way that we can, if and when we do decide to have children, that we're not allowing that to be carried forward. So there's a very serious problem going on with very specific people in our society that are doing great damage to our society because this is grossly unchecked. It does have profound impacts on our society and how we treat each other. 1 in 4 women experience sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner. All of that women are talking about, and we need to talk more about it. I am so glad that women are sharing all of this stuff. And the other one that I really enjoy, and this has just started kicking off, is the men that are standing up and saying, we support our women and our children. We defend our women and our children. And not just the women in their lives, but the women outside. And they call other men into account. Holding each other accountable and raising each other up is what our society needs to embrace more of. And learning where those are at. I think a lot of us, including myself, have felt very alone at times, which is the goal of people that inflict this kind of damage on other people. That is part of the tactic that they use. So approximately 10 million adults experience DV annually in the United States. About 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence, intimate violence, or stalking with impacts such as injury or PTSD. Up to 60% of victims lose their jobs in relation to domestic violence abuse. And then we think of those poverty rates, we think of the children that are living in poverty. There's a systemic challenge going on here where society is not supporting women and children that find themselves in these situations, and they are not doing enough to help the perpetrators of these violent acts, correcting what they're doing or preventing what they're doing, especially the repeat offense. DV-related homicides. In 2020, about 1,300 women were deleted by intimate partners in the U.S. Nearly half, or 44%, of domestic violence cases go unreported. And then we talk about why domestic violence is a homeless issue. Several national organizations have highlighted that domestic violence is one of the most prevalent causes of homelessness. In the most recent Center for Disease Control report on intimate partner violence, the CDC estimated that 5.5% of women, 6.9 million Americans, and 1.4% of men, or 1.6 million, will need support services due to housing insecurity caused by intimate partner violence. Intimate partner violence has been found to not be only one of the leading causes of homelessness, but also of housing insecurity. Women who experience domestic violence are 4 times as likely to become homeless as those who are not facing any abusive relationship. Even when survivors are housed, their abusive partner ensures that their housing situation is never stable. Okay, this is Castillo de San Marcos, and it's the oldest masonry fort in the continental United States. It was built by the Spanish between 1672 and 1695, replacing earlier wooden forts that were vulnerable to firestorms and decay. The fort is constructed of coquina, a shell stone material local to the area, which has the interesting property of absorbing or deflecting cannon fire rather than shattering. Over its history, the fort came under the flags of Spain, Britain, and the United States, though it was never captured by force. Control typically changed through treaties or political agreements. In the U.S. era, it was renamed Fort Marion in 1825 and used for various purposes, including as a military post, prison for Native Americans, surprise, surprise, and during the Civil War by both sides. Today it's preserved as a national monument under the National Park Service, and you can just kind of go wander around. It has museum exhibits and an interpretive programs and that sort of thing that are available in the area as well. It's pretty cool to wander through. It really is. Little had fun running around the fields area because there weren't a lot of people that were over there. So I kind of let her go for a little run around there. She had a good time. She thought that was pretty cool. Okay, let's do a little brief on the Fountain of Youth in St. Augustine. It's promoted as the landing place for Spanish explorer Juan Ponce de Leon in 1513 and is said to contain a spring whose water grants youth to those who drink from it. However, there's no solid historical or archaeological evidence that Ponce de Leon ever searched for such a fountain, or that this particular spring has magical properties. Archaeological excavations at the park have found remains of the 1565 Spanish settlements and structures from the Timucua native village of Siloy, giving the site real historical value beyond the myth. Today the park, it has like exhibits and it has like reconstructed dwellings and reenactments and gardens and lots of peacocks. Very cool. Little and I really enjoyed running around over here. That and then going out and looking at all of the wildlife and stuff on this long walkway they have over there. It's very cool. pretty cool. Thank you for joining us on this very first edition of Next Exit on Trippin's Scenic Discomfort Tour. In the next episode, we're going to be wandering up the coast of Florida into Georgia, heading towards Jekyll Island and Driftwood Beach. I hope you join us.